How can leaders champion well-being and cultivate genuine work-life balance? The American Institute of Stress estimates that 83% of U.S. workers suffer from daily work-life stress issues. 76% say that stress impacts their personal relationships, let alone 50% are not even engaged in doing their job. Percent say that their workload is the number one source for their stress. Welcome to Shedding the Corporate Bitch, the show where we'll explore the strategies, mindsets, and stories that shape today's managers into powerhouse leaders by shedding their bitches of fear, insecurity, doubts, and negativities so they create the riches in their work and life they deserve and find that work-life balance. Today, we're zeroing in on a critical issue, that being the well-being of a leader that has a direct impact on the people around them. We need to dive into why a robust well-being strategy is your best defense against burnout and turnover, and how the right kind of leadership can not only drive productivity, but also foster a resilient, satisfied team. From flexible work arrangements to proactive mental health support, I'll give you actionable insights and strategies to revolutionize the way you lead. Get ready to challenge the myths of work-life balance and learn to measure the real impact of your well-being initiatives. If you're happy, your people are happy. If you're well taken care of, your people are well taken care of. If you're energetic and excited about the work you're doing, that's going to foster that same emotion in your people. So tune in, take notes, and prepare to lead with a well-being mindset at the forefront. Stay with us. Welcome to Shedding the Corporate Bitch, the podcast that transforms female corporate executives into powerhouse leaders by showing them how to shed challenges, overwhelm, fear, insecurity, self-doubt, and negativity holding them back. I'm your host, Bernadette Bose of Ball of Fire Coaching, bringing you powerhouse discussions each week to share tips, advice, and sometimes tough love so you create the riches in your work and life you deserve. Let's do this. If you've taken part in Shedding the Corporate Bitch over the last number of years, you might actually have heard a contradiction of one of my beliefs in that opening introduction around well-being. Work-life balance doesn't exist because balance kind of indicates to people that there's equality in what we're doing at work, what we're doing at home, that we're finding equal time to put to those things, or we're finding specific strategies or passions in both of those arenas, or we're working at the same level in both of those areas of our lives. Any given day could totally skew one way or the other, the amount of focus, the amount of tension, the amount of intention that you could put to either your work or your home life. And so I often talk about work-life blend, finding how you can get the tools, the strategies, the resources, and the support to really find a blending of both of your kind of personalities, both of your lives into one, and ensure that you're doing it effectively to where you're finding peace, breath, calm, joy, happiness, fulfillment, and satisfaction in both areas. I definitely believe that you don't have to suffer in one to be happy in another. You can have it all. It's just a matter of how you go about living both of those lives. That can come down to time management. It can come down to organization, but it also can come down to looking at your well-being and translating that focus and those strategies to your team. Because again, if you're happy, they're happy. If you're fulfilled, they're fulfilled. If you're really coming at the work with excitement and energy and optimism, then that's what your people are going to feel. And therefore, that's what they're going to contribute back to you. So I really want to provide you areas of focus that you should pay attention to, work on, and then assess and measure and track, not only for yourself, but for your team. So we'll talk about 8 areas of focus for you when it comes to finding that well-being and therefore that work-life blend. After all, your people are your number one asset. Without them, you can't accomplish your goals and your dreams. You can't accomplish even your business metrics. So you have to really consider the fact that if people are your number one asset, you know that without them, you can't achieve, then putting your and their health and their well-being front and forward in your strategies, in your plans, in your reporting is going to be critical. And in turn, you're going to lower absenteeism. You're going to increase productivity. You're going to improve retention. You're going to, put a halt to attrition. You're going to overall increase manager and employee effectiveness and satisfaction. Everything and everyone is going to be far better off by you as the leader putting a focus on them. So the first thing I want you to be thinking about when it comes to that is really define for yourself, what does well-being and what it takes, what does that look like to you? What is work-life blend? Is that, the fact that you can get out of work at a certain time, the fact that you're working only a certain number of hours versus what you typically might work? Is it that you are working a flexible work environment versus something that's very stringent and strict and kind of prohibits you being creative? Is it that, it is Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday, whatever the case might be, and you make a commitment to yourself that it's not weekends? Does it mean that you have certain opportunities in the workplace, such as gyms, counselors, resources, tools, and training? How is it that you define what well-being and work-life blend might look like for yourself and for your team? That would be the very first area of focus. Once you understand where you stand when it comes to well-being, then you can start thinking about those tools, those strategies, those resources that you can put in place for yourself, maybe be the test dummy, doing it for yourself first, and then incorporating it into the workplace. All right. So that would be the first one. And then based on that, you start promoting well-being. You start ensuring that you're setting an example. You're being a role model for your people, just like parents and children. Your people look to you and model what you do, how you behave, what you say, and what you commit to or don't commit to, what you follow through on, what you don't follow through on. They are sitting there observing you and translating that in their own behavior. If you promote well-being, if you start being an example of taking care of yourself, of prioritizing that blend, making sure that time off is taken, making sure that vacation is quiet, then your people are going to follow suit. And again, that'll benefit everybody. So just consider that as part of promoting well-being. But at the same time, it really requires you to be open and transparent about well-being. So, having conversations, having lunch and learns, using one of your team meetings to really discuss kind of, maybe you sit down and tune in and touch base and check in with your team as far as how they're doing. Now, if you are going through any type of organizational change, if you're a new team, if you're a merged team, if there's new stresses in the business on top of the pressures of making the business numbers each and every month, well, then be sure to acknowledge that. Be sure to account for it by talking with your teams about what they might be feeling and experiencing and how it is impacting them. Step away from your title role and work your way into your leader role in regards to people. It'll be a huge benefit to both yourself and your team members. The first one was to define what well-being means to you and then start promoting it. and promoting it through setting an example primarily. Part of your plan around what well-being means, what it looks like, how it can be accomplished for yourself initially, as I mentioned, could be that you really have to take a hard look at the work environment, the work structure, the work hours and arrangements. I've had numerous conversations over the last several years, during COVID, post COVID, all around whether or not they were remote. Now we have to figure out if they come back full time, do they come back partially? Do we make remote standard? I've had a lot of conversations with leaders who are resistant to changing the way that they're so accustomed to, that corporate's been so accustomed to, and that being in the office Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, without any real fluidity in that structure. We've had hard discussions about, is this stubbornness? I'll often say, is this, tight reins that you're holding on these arrangements that have been in place? Is that about you, or is that looking out for your people? For instance, if you have individuals who work much better in a quiet, remote environment than a central, a lot of people, a lot of noise, a lot of need for social engagement, so forth and so on, who's benefiting from forcing those individuals into an environment that is just going to create enormous stress for them? No one's benefiting. Are you doing it because you have this mentality that you're the manager, you're the boss, you want them visible to you all the time? You don't trust that they will do the work if they're in a remote environment. Well, the world has changed and your people have changed. Therefore, you need to change and really look at what is well-being to you and what's going to make you happy and stress-free and fulfilled in your job. And most likely it's going to be similar, if not the same, it'll be similar to your people. Okay. So number 3 is really look at your working arrangements, your working structure and environment to determine if that's best for you. And in turn, is it best for your people? And then number 4 would be ensure that there are mental health, well-being resources, tools, training, support provided to your people. And so what does that look like? Well, it could look like beyond you setting an example, making sure that they're taking vacations and whatnot. We'll talk about that in a minute. You seek even from maybe HR or a group within your organization as to whether or not your people have access to support resources, whether that be mental health experts, counselors, so forth and so on. It could be training. It could be applications that they can use for meditating, breathing, and focusing on their mental health. And that includes, fitness and diet. So that would also include, whether there's gyms or at least memberships and other resources available to them. But seek that out. You might even, if you don't personally seek it out, give them guidance as far as them seeking it out. For instance, insurance plans provide a certain number of visits or telecalls with mental health experts. And therefore, you don't know everybody's insurance plans, but you could just make your team aware of it so that they could go looking into it as part of your overall well-being work-life blend strategy or plan. Seek out those resources for yourself and then for your team. And again, going back to transparent communication, make it a subject, even if it's for 5 minutes as part of your team status meetings. Ensure that you're creating that open, transparent, supportive, and safe environment. If someone is dealing with a lot of stress, make sure that they know where they can go, whether that's to you, I would hope, whether that's other resources within the company. Make sure that you also are encouraging your employees to confront and bring up where they're struggling when it comes to their mental health and well-being. You do not want to land up on the wrong side of a experience where, you find one of your employees, if not yourself, having a physical, mental, or other type of trauma as a result of not knowing and not having that open, transparent, safe environment and culture to where they can seek help, or at least have someone to talk to work through their workload or the type of work that might be causing them stress, and understand what does cause them stress, because different people will have different triggers when it comes to stress. In the workplace, it could be the people, it could be the workload, it could be the type of work, it could be the guidance or lack thereof that they're getting, it could be just overall the company culture. So you seeking that type of understanding out is also critical to you and to your team, but it's a critical part of being a leader. Number 6 would be encourage time off. Now, that may seem simple enough, and it's not just, oh, Joe, you really should take your vacations, and just kind of saying it, and then whether they do it or not, you've done your part. Your hands are clean. If we go back to you modeling it, make sure that you're taking your vacations. I learned the hard way after 25 years in my, corporate career, that I was not impressing or doing anything to elevate my, I don't know, panache by not taking vacations and working my little tail off, 7 days a week, 12 months a year. I wasn't doing anything for anybody else. I was just killing myself. If you as a leader struggle to take your own time off, find those resources to help you ensure that you do make that a priority. And if you didn't think about it on your plan that we discussed around defining what well-being is and what your work-life blend plan might be, then you definitely need to take a second look at it. You have to encourage time off for yourself as well as your people. And I'm not just talking formal vacations or days off. If you are struggling and can't get out of bed, or you're just really dealing with some stuff that is causing you not to be able to focus and be productive in your job, then seek that time off. It could be an hour, a day, a week, whatever the case might be. Stay in touch with what's going on within yourself and your team members, and then encourage that time off. Number 7 would be, each of us have a different well-being, work-life blend plan, or we should, because we're not all the same. What you need is not what I need. What you want in your work-life blend is not what I necessarily want. Ensure that even when you start modeling and openly discussing and collaborating with your team members around well-being, ensure that you recognize that each one of them are individuals. And so yours, it can't be like you're writing up a plan and that's what everybody follows. You, again, going back to even the flexible work environments and arrangements, you need to recognize that that plan is not going to be suitable for everybody. They need to be able to tailor it for themselves by providing resources that support, that training, that collaboration, that discussion, that vulnerability, that openness, and, that willingness to let them take the time, let them find the best arrangements for themselves. They can then tailor their own individual plan that still meets goals and objectives, still ensures that you get what you want and they get what they want. But at the same time, it's really a focus on them as an individual, not them as just a cog in the wheel on the team. All right. And lastly, and I would have put this first if you know me at all when it comes to where I really think people need to focus, but I felt that it was the closer on this subject. We talked about you defining how you look at well-being or what you want from well-being in a work-life blend, and even putting that plan together, laying that out, then using it to model it and set an example. You should also establish goals and measurements for whether that plan and that well-being you have defined is actually happening. So far too often, I find that they'll come up with a plan when it comes to their own mental health or physical well-being, and they fall right off it. Let's use time off or vacations as an example. They'll say, I have 4 weeks of vacation. I'm going to take my vacations. They might be scattered about, but I'm going to take my vacations. And the next thing you know, 3 months, 6 months down the road, they're back into the heaviness of work and the pressures of getting the job done and the business metrics met. So what happened to that vacation? Oh, I just didn't have time. What does that mean to your well-being? Well, I'll be fine. I'll take my vacation next month. Does that ring a bell to you? If you're going to take the time and you really are serious about understanding how you could be taking care of yourself, how you could be taking care of your team, and finding that blend for yourself. So not only are you taking care of personally, but it does help the business. It does increase productivity, increase attentiveness, increase retention, increased effectiveness. If you can focus there, then set goals for yourself based on whatever you put into your plan. And be sure to be going back and checking in with yourself, maybe every couple of weeks, as to whether you're following through on that plan or that plan/commitment you're making to yourself. Because again, if you're happy, fulfilled, taken care of, your team is going to be as well. And that's a benefit for everyone. Plus, you will be a happy, fulfilled, energetic, confident individual, let alone a leader. The key takeaways I want you to really think about and consider is you must actively engage and advocate for your own well-being and for that of your team members. No one else is going to do it for you. Be sure that you're raising your voice when it comes to how you want to take care of yourself and your people. Create that plan, start modeling it and being the example for those around you. But you are going to need to be the advocate of your own well-being, of your own work-life blend. Okay, so that's one key takeaway I want you to walk away with. And then at the same time, I please seriously consider whether or not the work arrangements that you're in right now, maybe that you're accustomed to, are really working for you and your team members. Let go of the ego, fear, or lack of trust that a different type of work arrangement may, put things at risk. You as a leader needs to be able to take those risks. So seriously consider the best and most productive arrangement for yourself and your team members. And maybe it's not you, but it's one or two of your team members that just need some flexibility. They just need you to trust them in order to improve their own well-being and be the best contributor to your team, your goals, and the business as they can be. So that would be my second takeaway for you. And lastly, build that culture of openness, of allowing your team members to know that you or other resources are there for them. Should they be struggling? Should you be struggling? Ensure that that open, safe culture, environment, and setting is communicated and made available to them so that everyone can know that what they might be dealing with personally, professionally, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, they can go somewhere to get the support and help that they need so that they can then come back to their role, to their job, to their office, and be as productive and as effective as they want to be. because they do. No one wants to be waking up every day, 5 days a week, miserable to do the job they need to do, whether that's remote or in an office. They want to be happy. They want to be energetic. They want to be productive so they feel valued and can contribute. Take care of your well-being, find that work-life blend, shed those bitches of fear, insecurities, doubts, and negativities that might be tripping you up, holding you back, and stressing you out. Just focus on you and your team, and you will create the riches you deserve in your work and life. I'm thrilled that you were with us this week, and I'll look forward to having you right back here for another episode of Shedding the Corporate Bitch. Be well, be happy, and find that blend. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Shedding the Corporate Bitch. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained some valuable insights. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to stay updated with the latest episodes. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and our Shed the Bitch TV YouTube channel. If you liked what you heard today, please give us a thumbs up, leave a review, and share it with your friends and colleagues. Until next time, keep shedding those bitches of fear, insecurity, and doubt, and start creating the riches in your work and life you deserve.